Sudan's ancient lost city of the sands, ancient Kush and the Kushites, and their forgotten pyramids. Exploring Sudan's forgotten pyramids, ancient Egypt, for much of its history, relied on the protection of the vast deserts that surrounded it to the west and south, huge and inhospitable. Few would dare to cross them in anger and face the might of the Egyptian army. To the east, with the Sinai Peninsula, the Egyptians faced frequent aggressive incursions from their neighbors in the Levant, that is today's Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, and Israel. And the Egyptians faced aggressive incursions from their neighbors in the Levant. However, despite the formidable protection of the deserts, the Egyptians faced another overland threat. The Nile, source of all life for the Egyptians, extended far to the south of the Egyptian heartlands, and here Egypt faced their only other major land neighbor. This region, known as Nubia, would at times be subjugated by the Egyptians, and at other times rule the Egyptian kingdoms as pharaohs of the south. One of the civilizations that rose from the south to threaten Egypt was the Kingdom of Kush, and it was the Kushites fleeing an ascendant Egypt in the 6th century BC who built a great city far to the south, Meroe, known to the Greeks as Ethiopia. So we're talking about Ethiopia. Now we know that from what is written in the Old Testament of the Bible, Moses was the prince of Egypt and he was the prince of Ethiopia, which is of course south of Egypt. Now it's safer in the south. This ancient city was found on the Nile's west bank in Sudan. The Kushites had threatened Egypt's southern border for 200 years, striking from their capital of Napata. Built in 591 BC, the Egyptians scored a stunning victory against Kush, and Pharaoh Psamtik II had sacked Napata. The Kushite remnants under King Aspelta retreated from Egyptian dominance, relocated the capital far to the south, Napata and Meroe. We'll see here on the map. Okay, so here we have the map showing us Kushites. Thebes, we're talking about the Kushite kingdom all the way from what is today Cairo, Egypt, all the way down to Ethiopia. Now the choice of Meroe as the new capital was wise. Rich resources and fertile lands ensured that the new center of power flourished, and the Kushites reestablished themselves in splendor. Trade routes ranging as far as India and even China brought wealth to the kingdom, and over 200 pyramids would eventually be built at Meroe. So at that time, 600 BC, they had trade routes to India and China. Many of these pyramids today are in ruins, but what remains shows the distinctive proportions and sizes of the Nubian pyramids. They were slender with steeper walls than the Cairo pyramids, for example, and often with grand entrances. They appear very different to the Egyptian pyramids. The pyramids at Meroe ranged from 20 feet to 100 feet tall, and they were believed to have been built between 720 BC and 300 BC. The entrance of the pyramids usually faces towards the east to greet the rising sun. Moreover, the pyramids have decorative elements inspired by the great cultures to the north, that is Rome, Greece, and Egypt. This mingling of sources with Kushite architecture makes the pyramids unique. According to the National Museum of Sudan's head, Abdel Rahma Omar, many of the pyramids retain their golden capstones as late as the 19th century. However, a number of overeager archaeologists, little more than looters, removed these priceless features and even reduced some of the pyramids to mere rubble. Today, the remaining pyramids at the city of Meroe in Ethiopia are largely forgotten, and the site lies deserted. Even though it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, it's rarely visited. The discovery of Meroe, records have survived from the classical periods of this great city, somewhere far to the south of ancient Egypt. The Greek historian Herodotus writes in the 5th century BC, describing the city of Meroe and its queens called Candaces. And we know that the Ethiopian eunuch of the Queen of Candace was baptized by the deacon Philip in the New Testament. So obviously he came from Ethiopia. Now these queens, the Candaces, also mentioned in the Holy Bible and Jewish oral tradition, claims that Moses at some point, while still a favorite of the Egyptian pharaoh, led an army into Nubia and besieged Meroe, here called Saba. After taking the city through a betrayal, he returned north victorious. These ancient reports of a fabulous city somewhere in the sands cast a spell on the scholars of the 19th century. A French archaeologist named Frederick Golet was desperate to prove the city's existence, and during that time, Khedive Ismail, under the rule of Egypt and Sudan, was ambitious to acquire all the riches of Sudan, so Frederick Golet attempted to interest Ismail to join him in the search for the city of Meroe. However, the prince had little interest in history and science and did not show much interest. Seeking to entice the Khedive, Frederick Golet gave Ismail a hint that he was trying to discover King Solomon's gold mines. Supported by the newly enthusiastic Ismail, Frederick Golet conducted extensive exploration journeys into the Sudan. After much searching, on the dawn of the 25th of April, 1821, he walked into the ruined city of Meroe, confirming its existence and location for all time. He was so overwhelmed with emotion that that made him sit down and weep. The heart of the empire, Meroe was the center of a flourishing kingdom. Abundant iron ore reserves located nearby, and its location as a gateway to southern Africa ensured the city was a powerful and wealthy trade hub. Evidence of ancient blast furnaces at the site show the prominence and importance of metalworking to the Kushites. Iron was an extremely valuable resource, and the production was controlled in a centralized manner within the Meroe Empire. This concentration of experience and talent meant that the Meroitic metalworkers were considered the best in the world. The city of Meroe was also involved in exporting jewelry and textiles. The textiles were mainly based on cotton. Pottery was also a key trade good for the Kushites, and production was quite widespread. One of the strong traditions was the production of decorated fine pottery jars and bowls used for mortuary rites. The key to the political and social success of Meroe and the Meroitic Empire that flourished around it was the availability of labor to exploit the resources. This access to labor drove the wealth of the region and in turn led to the rise of political power in Meroe. As Pelta was canny indeed to have chosen Meroe as his capital. This focus of power and wealth led to engineering advancements, and Meroe was able to exploit the Nile like no southern kingdom had before. The Sakia, a mechanical water lifting device, moved water for irrigation and crop production, opening up large areas of barren land for agriculture, allowing the population of the city to grow. The Meroese also had their own spin on religion. The people living in Meroe had several southern deities like the lion son of Sekhmet and Apedemek. However, the gods of Egypt cast a long shadow on deities, where Horus, Thoth, and Isis were also worshipped, a throwback to the days when the capital was much closer to Egypt. The Fall of Meroe. By the late 1st century BC, Egypt had been conquered by the Roman Empire, and Meroe faced a new adversary. The Romans responded to the Kushite raids into Egypt in force, marching south and again sacking the old capital of Napata. The Meroese made peace with the Romans, adapting to the new political climate, and maintained their position as a trade hub. However, over the next 3 centuries, as power shifted away from their neighbor Egypt, Meroe went into decline. This diminishing of power coincided with the rise of new powers in the region. One such was Aksum, an upstart kingdom and rival trading hub to the east, centered in modern-day Ethiopia. Meroe's prestige as a trade hub had been declining, and Aksum took advantage, growing in wealth and power. An expansionist culture with an effective military, Meroe was one of the targets of the Aksum as they sought dominance in the region. In 350 AD, after more than 900 years as the Kushite capital, the armies of the Aksum destroyed Meroe, leaving a stele behind to record their victory, and Meroe was no more. It took a long time for the secrets of Meroe to be uncovered. Their unique language, their two writing systems, and the treasures of the city itself remain almost entirely a mystery to Western archaeology before Golet rediscovered the city in 1821. In 1944, C.R. Lupsius again excavated the ruins. In addition to discovering further antiquities, he also conducted extensive surveys of the site, completing many sketches and plans. And further excavations were conducted in 1902 and 1905. Remains of bodies, earthenware, metal vessels, and ruins of temples and palaces were discovered. But driven out of reach of most by the modern-day turmoil that gripped Sudan, the ruins of Meroe remained inaccessible to many. Much of what the city was is now known, but much remains a mystery. What hidden treasures lie hidden in this ancient forgotten city of Kush, awaiting to be discovered? This was originally published on Historic Mysteries. It's on Collective Spark. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Finally, support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.